Hello, remember Hyundai Tucson? This is its sister, the new Kia Sportage. If you read motoring press, sometimes a journalist will take a step too far and write something about shapely hips and sexy looks. It has nothing to do with Nicholas Evans' sex scene from The Horse Whisperer. Yes, it was a novel, before Robert Redford got to fondle Kristen Scott Thomas on screen. Anyway, it's strictly about cars. Usually I try to avoid this type of comparisons, but next to the all-serious Tucson, the Sportage here is a barely legal teen. Damn, I said it! Now it won't be forgotten, but maybe at least forgiven. The problem with crossovers is that besides their inexplicable popularity, they don't bring anything new to the market, and in case of Kia and Hyundai, they are average at best. Perhaps this Sportage looks better than its predecessor, but it's no quantum leap in quality. Both Korean crossovers look very similar from the back, but from the front it is clear Hyundai has the more mature style and Kia is more hip. I'd go with the Kia, even if these cool quadruple lights are just fog lights, not day running lights. It's a shame, because 99% of the time these remain useless. And as a German designer once told me, if it's not functional, it's not design. Like in the Tucson, also here you get electrically operated tailgate, but the boot is about 20 liters smaller, even with a mini spare instead of a full-size spare I had in the Tucson. But thanks to the mini spare, the double floor actually works, and as a result I can stow the boot cover on top or under the floor, so it doesn't obstruct loading space. Shopping bag hooks are useless and there is no 12-volt socket. In the back again, it's much like the Tucson, although darker. Kia offers a two-tone black and caramel interior option, but in the GT line you only get black upholstery. Seats fold flat, side seats are heated and have ISOFIX mounts, there is a small tunnel running through the middle, there are air vents and a 12-volt socket and a USB port. The biggest difference between Tucson and Sportage can be observed in the front, where the dashboard is largely made of soft touch materials, at least in places where journalists like to touch cars, Otherwise, the cockpit is logically laid out. There are large door pockets, clear instrument cluster, decent sat-nav, a lot of storage, large buttons, cup holders. In GT line trim, besides standard heated seats, there's also a ventilated seat option, which you may want to consider, bearing in mind this is black leather upholstery. Like in the Tucson, also here the radio comes on every time you press the ignition button, regardless of whether it was muted earlier or not. So the only option is to switch off the infotainment system completely, but then you lose sat-nav, so that's not exactly the best solution. First impressions on the road are better than in the Tucson, and it's not because the Sportage is any different, it's the engine. The other day when I was recording car-to-car shots, I was driving a Kia and a Hyundai, and I was just going back and forth between the cars, and sometimes I had to remind myself which car I was actually in at the moment. So they are virtually the same to drive. However, the engine is what makes the difference. This is a 1.6 liter petrol turbo, 177 horsepower, mated to a 7-speed dual clutch transmission, and it's much more refined, much more pleasant. It sounds better than the diesel. The diesel is a bit agricultural, I would say, and this is a pleasant package. It's effortless, and unless you're planning to drive the car on longer trips, there is really no reason to go for the diesel. For the 177 horsepower petrol 1.6 T-GDI engine with all-wheel drive and DCT, Kia promises 7.5 liters per 100 kilometers in combined cycle. In real life, it's more like 9.5. For the diesel, it's about 8.5 instead of claimed 6.3. In case of Kia, a petrol engine is about $3,000 cheaper than the equivalent diesel. What I miss in Kia and Hyundai is the stop and start system, not because I'm a big fan, but because the two engine versions I tested get very thirsty in the city and they could benefit from shutting the engine off at the lights. With a manual gearbox, you get flex steer, which changes the level of power steering assistance, and in cars with automatic gearbox, there's only a drive mode button which engages the sport mode. which makes the Sportage quite sporty actually. The 1.6 177 horsepower T-GDI Kia Sportage accelerates from 0 to 100 km per hour in 9.1 seconds, from 80 to 120, which is the flexibility you need to overtake. It takes just above 6 seconds, a fraction of a second faster, or more flexible if you like, than the 185 horsepower diesel. If you're brave enough, there's a 4x4 lock button which predictably locks the all-wheel drive system in 50-50 torque split up until 30 km per hour. This should ensure relatively good traction in rougher terrain, and for those off-roader wannabes, there's even a hill descent assist system. You can have the Sportage with blind spot monitoring, cross-traffic monitoring, automatic parallel and perpendicular parking system, or autonomous emergency braking with pedestrian recognition. The same options are available on the Tucson. One thing I forgot to mention in my Tucson review: doors do not cover the sills, so mind your trousers when getting out in the winter. Prices of the 2016 Kia Sportage start at just below 20 grand. This GT line model with all-wheel drive and DCT costs around 36,000 euro plus options. It all adds up to about 40 grand. That's about 5 grand less than a similarly spec'd Hyundai Tucson. Also, Kia offers 7 years warranty, 2 years more than the Hyundai. So, if you can think of a good reason why you should get a Hyundai Tucson instead of a Kia Sportage, let me know in the comments below. Share, rate and subscribe. New episodes every Friday. Thanks for watching, and if you like this review, please support me on Patreon or PayPal. You'll find the links in the description below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.